Why told us that success equals happiness? That if we worked hard, bought the right things, and achieved more than the person next to us, we'd finally feel fulfilled. But what if the world's definition of happiness is broken? Mark had everything. The high-rise apartment overlooking the skyline. A career that made others jealous. The car, the clothes, the status symbols. But behind closed doors he was empty. The more he achieved, the more he felt like something was missing. His days were noise. Deadlines. Meetings. Notifications. And at night, a silence that screamed louder than any crowd. He began to wonder, is this it? Is this the life I worked so hard to build? And if it is, why does it feel so meaningless? One weekend, Mark took a trip far outside the city. No signal, no rush, just space to breathe. That's where he met the old man. Calm eyes, weathered skin, a presence that felt like time itself. They talked, not about success, not about business, but about peace, stillness, and the art of being. What the old man taught him wasn't from a TED Talk or a self-help book. It was ancient, timeless, stoic. He said, the problem isn't the world. The problem is how you see it. That was the beginning. Not of a new job, not of a new goal, but of a new lens, a new life. Today's world pushes dopamine over discipline, stimulation over stillness. But the Stoics knew something we've forgotten. That happiness isn't found in excess, it's found in essence. What you're about to discover are 13 Stoic-based principles for a truly happy life. Not the kind of happiness that fades when the weekend ends, but the kind that remains, even when storms come. This is not theory. It's practice. It's not motivation. It's transformation. And the first step is laughter. 1. Laugh more. Laughter. It's not just a reaction to something funny, it's a declaration of life. A moment where the weight of existence lifts, if only for a second. And in that second, something powerful happens. We remember what it feels like to be alive. The Stoics didn't smile because life was easy. They smiled because they chose not to be broken by it. They found strength in levity. Epictetus, a man born into slavery, crippled in body but never in mind, once said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things." And sometimes our judgment is too heavy, too serious. We take ourselves too seriously. We forget that joy, even in hard times, is not only allowed, it's necessary. Modern science agrees. Studies show that laughter reduces cortisol, the stress hormone. It boosts the immune system. It enhances memory. In a world where burnout is worn like a badge of honor, laughter is a rebellion. It's resistance. It says, "You will not take my peace from me." Think about it. In your hardest moments when things seemed unbearable, what broke the tension? A joke. A smile. That one friend who didn't try to fix everything but just made you laugh. That's not weakness. That's resilience. Imagine a man stuck in traffic. Horns blaring. Deadlines approaching. He can choose anger. Or he can choose to chuckle at the absurdity of it all. One response poisons the moment. The other frees him from it. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and master of Stoic control, faced plagues, wars, and betrayal. Yet his meditations are filled not with bitterness, but with clarity, with perspective. Would he have laughed? Likely yes. Not out of ignorance, but out of wisdom. Laughter is a spiritual exhale. It breaks the illusion that everything is life or death. And sometimes that's exactly what we need to remember. Most things aren't. You don't have to wait to feel good to laugh. You can laugh and begin to feel better. Psychologists call this the facial feedback hypothesis. The idea that the very act of smiling can influence your emotional state. The Stoics understood this intuitively. Behavior shapes mindset. Actions shape attitude. Laughing doesn't mean you're in denial. It means you're in control. It's the decision to find light, even when shadows linger. So laugh more. Not because life is perfect, but because your soul needs space to breathe. And laughter is one of the purest breaths you can take. Next time you feel overwhelmed, try it. Not a forced grin, but a real, messy, shameless laugh. Watch what happens inside you. Watch what falls away. Because laughter, true, deep, unapologetic laughter, is stoic. Not in its seriousness, but in its freedom. 2. Get outside and connect with nature. The noise of modern life is constant. Emails, screens, traffic, notifications that never stop. But beneath all that noise, your mind is quietly begging for something ancient, something real. The Stoics believed in aligning with nature, not just philosophically but physically. To them, nature wasn't a background. was a teacher, a sanctuary. Seneca wrote, "We do not escape death by hiding from life." And yet, so many of us are hiding, indoors, under artificial lights, disconnected from the very source of our vitality. Step into a forest, walk near the ocean, sit under an open sky, and suddenly your problems shrink. Your perspective expands. The silence speaks. Modern science calls this eco-psychology. A walk in nature lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. Heart rate drops. Blood pressure stabilizes. This isn't luxury. It's biology. In Japan, they call it Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing. Not for exercise, not for performance, but to immerse, to breathe, to remember. Remember what? That you're not separate from the world. You're part of it. When Marcus Aurelius felt overwhelmed by the duties of an emperor, he returned to nature in his mind. He would reflect on the stars, the seasons, the cycles of life. He wrote, "Observe always that everything is the result of change. And change is nature's rhythm. The falling leaves, the rising sun, the shifting tides. These aren't just poetic images, they are lessons in letting go. When you're stuck in your own head, get out of your house. Touch a tree. Listen to birdsong. Watch the sky move. Your mind will start to move too." Psychologically, nature restores what attention fatigue destroys. When you're burned out, no amount of scrolling will save you. But 20 minutes in the park can begin to reset your nervous system. That's not opinion. That's data. And Stoicism is rooted in observing what is, not what we wish would be. It asks, what helps you think more clearly? What helps you live more fully? The answer is often just outside your front door. Think of Mark, the man who had it all, except peace. It wasn't until he sat beneath a mountain, no Wi-Fi, no status, no distractions, that he began to feel something shift. The old man told him, "The world doesn't need you to conquer it. It needs you to feel it." Feeling requires space, and space is what nature offers. Not every moment has to be optimized. Some just need to be observed. Not every problem needs solving. Some just need to dissolve like clouds in a wide sky. So get outside. Not because it's trendy, because it's truth. In the rustling of leaves, in the wind on your face, there is wisdom. And if you slow down enough, you'll hear it. 3. Be a morning person. Before the world wakes, there is a silence. A sacred stillness untouched by noise, opinions, or demands. It's in this space, this early morning void, that clarity is born. The Stoics were obsessed with the morning. Not because they were productivity addicts, but because they understood that the first light of day is when the mind is most malleable, most honest, and least distracted by the drama of the world. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man of his time, used the early hours for reflection. In Meditations he writes, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work,' as a human being." What is that work? Not emails, not errands, but the work of becoming, of strengthening the soul. Modern neuroscience agrees. Early risers show lower levels of depression, higher productivity, and greater emotional regulation. The morning brain operates differently. It's primed for insight, not impulse. In those first minutes, you are untouched by the world's weight. You haven't yet been pulled into your phone, your to-do list, your stress. You are still close to your essence. That's where the Stoic morning lives. Mark learned this the hard way. For years, he woke up at the last possible minute, rushed, reactive, constantly catching up. But when the old man showed him a different way, everything shifted. He began rising with the sun. And instead of reaching for his phone, he reached inward. 5 minutes of journaling, 10 minutes of breathing, 15 minutes of silence. Nothing complicated, just conscious, just deliberate. The Stoics weren't interested in elaborate routines. They believed in intentional beginnings. Because how you begin is often how you continue. Seneca advised, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Each morning is a rebirth, a chance to reset your compass, to choose courage over comfort, presence over panic, purpose over passivity. Being a morning person isn't about discipline for discipline's sake. It's about reclaiming the hours that modern life has stolen. It's about choosing reflection before reaction, choice before chaos. The world will come loud and relentless. But for 1 hour, maybe just 30 minutes, you can be still. You can read a page that changes you. Write a sentence that anchors you. Ask a question that redefines you. What am I living for? What can I let go of? What kind of man do I want to be today? You don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. You just have to wake up on purpose. And when you do, something changes. not just in your schedule, but in your soul. Because mornings aren't just about time. They're about sovereignty. And no Stoic ever gave that away. 4. Pack your days with plans. Time is not something you have, something you use. And every day you let it slip through your fingers, you're not just losing minutes, you're losing moments of becoming. The Stoics treated time as sacred. They knew it was the only currency that, once spent, could never be earned back. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Wasted not always in vice or idleness, but in drift, in days without direction, in actions without intention." Mark once believed freedom meant doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. But that lifestyle led to distraction, not liberation. Until the old man handed him a journal and said, "Freedom isn't the absence of structure. It's the power to build your own." So Mark began to plan. Not obsessively, not like a machine, but with clarity, with purpose. Each morning he would outline what mattered. Work, reflection, relationships, rest. Not just appointments but alignment. Packing your day with plans is not about filling every minute. It's about removing the aimless ones. The Stoics didn't believe in passive living. They believed in waking up with a question. What will I do today to live with virtue? Modern psychology calls this implementation intention. It's the science of committing to specific actions in advance. When we plan our day, we reduce decision fatigue. We increase follow-through. We stop reacting. We start executing. Even the act of planning improves focus. It tells your brain, this matters. And when everything feels urgent, that reminder is gold. Planning protects what's important from what's merely loud. Think of time as a vessel. If you don't fill it with what matters, others will fill it for you, with noise, obligations, distractions. And by the time night falls, you'll wonder, what did I actually live for today? The Stoic life is not a chaotic one. It is deliberate. It is calm because it is ordered. That doesn't mean rigidity. It means rhythm. Blocks of deep work. Time for training. Space for silence. Moments for love. A full day isn't one that's busy. It's one that reflects your values. And here's the paradox. Structure gives you more freedom, not less. Because when you pack your day with your plans, you stop living according to everyone else's. So write down what matters. Block the time. Honor the plan. And when your head hits the pillow, you'll know you lived with direction. You didn't drift. You drove. That's Stoic. That's power. 5. Don't quit on what you love. Everyone loves to start. The new project. The fresh relationship. The exciting idea. But very few finish. Because finishing isn't glamorous. It's repetitive. Lonely. Often invisible. The Stoics didn't chase excitement. They cultivated endurance. They believed that true fulfillment doesn't come from novelty. It comes from commitment. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly. There must be time. Give your best and let it happen." And yet, in a world that worships speed, we treat struggle as a sign we're on the wrong path. But what if the opposite is true? What if resistance is proof that what you're doing matters? Mark had always been a serial quitter. When the challenge grew, he shifted to something easier. But it left him hollow. Because pleasure fades fast. Meaning, however, is forged in the fire of perseverance. When he confided in the old man, the reply was simple. If it's in your soul, it's not a phase. It's a calling. And callings are answered, not abandoned. Stoicism is not about detachment from effort. It's detachment from outcome. You don't continue because it's easy. You continue because it's yours. Modern psychology backs this up. Angela Duckworth's research on grit reveals that passion and perseverance for long-term goals are better predictors of success than talent or IQ. Stoicism lived that truth long before the data existed. When you stay consistent with what you love, even in obscurity, you build a sense of self-respect. You know you showed up, even when no one was watching. Especially when no one was watching. That's not stubbornness. That's character. Seneca reminded his students, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." You will hit walls. You will face critics. You will doubt. But the Stoic answer isn't to stop. It's to simplify. Return to the reason you began. Reconnect to the love that lit the fire. Discipline without love becomes punishment. Love without discipline becomes fantasy. But love with discipline? That builds legacy. What if Marcus Aurelius had stopped writing Meditations because he thought no one would read it? What if Epictetus gave up on teaching because he had no status, no wealth, no physical freedom? You are not meant to dabble. You are meant to devote. So don't quit on what you love. Not when it's hard. Not when it's slow. Especially not when the world tempts you with easier paths. Because when you stay, you grow. When you endure, you evolve. And when you finish what you start, you become someone unshakable. 6. Go for kindness. In a world obsessed with winning, kindness is often seen as weakness. But the Stoics knew better. They understood that kindness is not soft, is strong. Not naive but grounded. Not reactive but deliberate. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, wrote, "Kindness is invincible." Let that sink in. Not brute force. Not pride. Not control. But kindness as the highest form of strength. Why? Because it takes courage to stay open when life tries to harden you. It takes clarity to act with compassion when you've been wronged. And it takes discipline to resist the ego's desire for retaliation. Mark used to see kindness as optional, a luxury. He thought, I'll be kind when I have time, when I'm not under pressure. But life is pressure. And if kindness only shows up when it's easy, it isn't real. The turning point came after a business deal went south. Betrayed, angry, ready to fight, Mark sought revenge. But the old man said, anyone can strike back. Only the strong can stand still and stay kind. Kindness, then, is a form of emotional sovereignty. It says, I choose who I am no matter what you do. Modern psychology supports this. Acts of kindness release oxytocin, which lowers blood pressure and enhances well-being. Kindness improves sleep, increases lifespan, and strengthens the immune system. This isn't sentiment. It's science. But more than that, kindness changes the environment. It disarms conflict. It turns strangers into allies. It brings peace where there was tension. Stoicism isn't about being cold or detached. It's about being in control of your reactions, choosing the response that aligns with your values. Kindness isn't weakness. It's choosing to rise above your instincts. It's strength under restraint. Seneca wrote, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Think about that. Every moment of irritation, every encounter with a difficult person, each one is a chance to be stronger, not by overpowering but by understanding. You don't have to agree to be kind. You don't have to approve to treat someone with dignity. Kindness is not compliance, it's clarity. It says, this is who I am. This is how I live. And when you live like that, rooted in strength, expressed in kindness, you gain more than peace. You gain respect, trust, influence, not by domination, but by presence. So go for kindness, even when it's not deserved, even when it's not returned. Because in doing so you are not being weak. You are being unchangeable. 7. Say yes more often. Most people think Stoicism is about restraint, about saying no. No to excess, no to emotion, no to pleasure. But that's only part of the story. Stoicism is not about restriction. It's about intention. And sometimes the most stoic move you can make is to say yes. To life, to challenge, to growth. Mark was a master of the safe zone. He avoided the uncomfortable, the unpredictable, the unfamiliar. He thought that control came from limiting risk. But control without courage becomes a cage. The old man said, safety is not freedom. It's just a slower kind of death. Stoicism teaches us to act in accordance with nature. And nature expands, evolves. 6. To live in harmony with life is to move with it, not hide from it. Seneca wrote, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. Saying yes doesn't mean abandoning discernment. It means refusing to let fear make your decisions for you. Modern psychology confirms this. Studies in behavioral science show that novelty and challenge are key to emotional vitality. Saying yes activates the brain's learning centers. It promotes neural growth, emotional flexibility, and resilience. In a world addicted to comfort, the Stoic says, stretch. Try the new thing. Speak up in that meeting. Take the trip. Start the project. Not because you know it will succeed, but because you know it will shape you. Mark began experimenting. He said yes to dinner invitations, to weekend hikes, to unfamiliar books. Each yes cracked open another part of him. Not all were wins, but all were real. There is a danger in too many boundaries, too many routines, too much control. You risk building a fortress that becomes a prison. Stoicism is about engaging with the world, not retreating from it. Say yes to the hard conversation. Say yes to the early morning. Say yes to the workout you don't feel ready for. Say yes to the opportunity that scares you. Not recklessly but bravely. Because every time you stretch your limits, you redefine who you are. And that is the Stoic path, not perfection but progress. The Stoics believed in action. Not the safe action. The right one. And often the right one begins with one word. Yes. 8. Turn off your phone sometimes. We live in a world designed to steal your attention. Not once, not twice, but constantly. Your phone is not just a tool, it's a battlefield. And the enemy is distraction. The Stoics never faced digital addiction, but they knew the danger of a scattered mind. They saw that a man who can't be alone with his thoughts is a man who is not free. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But how can we retreat to that inner peace when our minds are hijacked by every buzz, ping, and scroll? Mark struggled with this deeply. Endless scrolling in bed. Checking emails before sunrise. Conversations interrupted by glances at the screen. It felt normal, but it was silently eroding his presence, his patience, his peace. One day the old man placed a bowl of water in front of him. Then he dropped in a handful of stones. The surface rippled, chaotic. He said, "This is your mind with constant noise. Now watch." And then silence, stillness. The water calmed. This is your mind without it. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Digital overstimulation shortens attention spans, increases anxiety, and fragments memory. Studies show that even having your phone in sight, even if it's off, reduces cognitive capacity. The Stoic path requires clarity. It requires stillness. And those cannot coexist with endless digital noise. This doesn't mean abandoning technology. It means mastering it, using it as a tool, not a tether. Try turning your phone off for 1 hour a day. Leave it in another room while you work. Walk without it. Eat without it. Talk to someone without glancing at a screen. Feel the difference. Feel yourself returning. Epictetus taught that we must guard our minds as we would a fortress. But most of us leave the gate wide open. 24/7 access to anxiety, comparison, and overstimulation. The truth is, you can't hear your own wisdom when you're constantly hearing everyone else's noise. So turn it off. Not forever. Just enough. Enough to reconnect. To reflect. To breathe. Because the strongest signal you can receive is not from a tower. It's from within. And you'll only hear it when the screen goes dark. 9. Take breaks and go on trips. In a world that glorifies hustle, rest feels like rebellion. But the Stoics knew, the bow that's always strung loses its power. Just as the body needs sleep, the soul needs space. Seneca wrote, "We should take wandering outdoor walks so that the mind might be nourished and refreshed by the open air and deep breathing." This isn't just poetic. It's profoundly practical. Mark didn't believe in breaks. Every hour was scheduled. Every task optimized. He wore his exhaustion like a badge of honor until his body rebelled. Fatigue, anxiety, a sense of drifting even while constantly moving. He wasn't working anymore, he was wearing out. That's when the old man said, "You're not a machine. You're a man." And even machines break when they never stop. We confuse motion with progress. But a wheel can spin in place forever. Breaks are not interruptions of productivity, they're investments in sustainability. Modern psychology confirms this. Studies on cognitive performance show that taking strategic breaks improves memory, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Even brief mental pauses help consolidate learning and prevent burnout. Travel, in particular, has a unique power. Not for luxury. For perspective. Leaving your usual environment resets your nervous system. It shakes loose old thoughts. It creates space for new insights to emerge. The Stoics believed that wisdom grows when the mind is displaced. Not overwhelmed but awakened. Marcus Aurelius often traveled with the Roman army, and it was on these journeys he penned his greatest reflections. Stillness, after all, isn't found in one place. It's found within, but it's often accessed by stepping outside routine. You don't need to fly across the world. A weekend road trip. A long walk in an unfamiliar neighborhood. A day off with no agenda. Anything that reminds you, there's more to life than deadlines and to-do lists. Breaks don't make you lazy. They make you lucid. They remind you who you are when you're not performing. And when you return, from that walk, that weekend, that moment of exhale, you return better, sharper, quieter inside, more aligned. The Stoics never sought escape, but they did seek space, to observe, to recalibrate, to renew. So take the break. Plan the trip. Step outside the storm so you can re-enter with steadier hands. Because you are not here to burn out. You are here to burn steady. 10. Hang out with friends and family. In the quiet pursuit of excellence, it's easy to forget this simple truth. We are not meant to do life alone. The Stoics were not isolated monks. They believed in the power of community, of shared struggles, of honest dialogue. Epictetus said, "We are made for cooperation like feet, like hands, like eyelids." Mark for a long time wore solitude like armor. Work came first. Success required sacrifice. And slowly the dinner stopped. The calls went unanswered. Even when he was surrounded by people, he felt profoundly alone. The old man saw through it. He said, "You've built a fortress, not a home." Stoicism isn't about emotional detachment. It's about emotional responsibility. And part of that responsibility is showing up for others. Spending time with friends and family grounds you. Not because they're perfect, but because they remind you of who you are outside the chase. They see the parts of you that success doesn't measure. Modern research echoes this. The longest-running study on human happiness from Harvard found that the quality of our relationships is the strongest predictor of our well-being. Not money, not fame, connection. Good relationships protect us from anxiety, depression, and even physical illness. They help us process pain, celebrate wins, anchor us in storms. But these connections don't maintain themselves. They require presence, not just physical but emotional. It's not enough to be in the room, you have to be there. When you're with your people, put the phone down. Look them in the eye. Ask real questions. Listen to the answers. Seneca believed that friendship was a kind of moral training ground. A place where we sharpen our character, reflect our values, and build the strength to love well. Because love, like Stoicism, is not soft. It is intentional. It is forged in presence, patience, and truth. And yes, sometimes it's inconvenient. You're tired. You're busy. But rarely will you regret time spent with those who love you. And often you'll regret the moments you let slip by. Mark started making changes. Family dinners returned. Long drives with his father. Quiet coffee with his brother. Not big gestures, consistent ones. He began to see that life's most valuable currency isn't time. It's shared time. So hang out with your people. Not just on holidays or out of obligation, but as a habit, as a practice, as a reminder that greatness means nothing without someone to share it with. Because in the end, Stoicism is not about going it alone. It's about becoming someone worth walking with. 11. Help others out. There's a strange paradox in modern self-development. Everyone wants to be better, stronger, wiser, yet so much of it is focused inward. But the Stoics taught that virtue is not only a personal pursuit, it's a social obligation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." In other words, your life isn't separate from others, it's interwoven. And true happiness, the kind that endures, often begins when we stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" Mark's transformation deepened when he stopped seeing his life as a solo mission. At first it was simple. He helped a neighbor carry groceries. He mentored a young colleague. Not out of strategy, out of alignment. And something shifted. His problems didn't disappear, but his perspective did. When you lift someone else, you rise too. Stoicism teaches us to look beyond ourselves. To live not in isolation but in service. Epictetus said, "What ought one to say then as each hardship comes? I was practicing for this, I was training for this." And what better training than to be a source of strength for someone else? Modern psychology confirms that helping others increases happiness, lowers stress, and even improves physical health. Acts of altruism activate reward centers in the brain. They connect us with a sense of meaning. They remind us that life is not just about me, it's about we. Helping others doesn't mean becoming a martyr. It means becoming useful. It means seeing your pain as preparation, your wisdom as a gift, your strength as something to share. Seneca reminded us, "No man can live a happy life or even a supportable life without the study of wisdom and the cultivation of virtue and the performance of duty." Helping others is not charity, it's duty. And that duty is where depth is found. A word of encouragement, an hour of your time, a lesson from your scars. These are the offerings that build legacy. And here's the truth. The most powerful men are not those who dominate. They are those who serve from strength. Mark learned that being useful to others gave him something success never could, significance. Not the kind that gets applause, the kind that gets remembered. So look around. Who needs what you already have? And what would happen if you gave it freely? Because when you help others out, you step fully into what the Stoics called living according to nature. And nature, at its core, is about connection. 12. Focus on the good stuff you've got. There is a silent disease that infects modern minds. It doesn't scream. It doesn't cripple the body. But it poisons the soul. It's called comparison. We scroll through curated lives, obsess over what we lack, and slowly blind ourselves to what we already have. But the Stoics had a remedy: gratitude. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." And that's the truth that modern culture hides. Gratitude isn't a feel-good trick. It's a discipline of perception. Mark used to measure his life by what was missing. The next goal, the next raise, the next relationship. But no matter how much he gained, it never felt like enough. Until the old man handed him a question. What if you woke up tomorrow with only what you were thankful for today? That question shattered something. It revealed that abundance isn't found in acquisition. It's found in awareness. Modern psychology echoes this. Studies show that regular gratitude practice leads to higher life satisfaction, better sleep, improved physical health, and stronger relationships. Not because circumstances change, because perspective does. Gratitude rewires the brain. It quiets the noise of lack. It interrupts the cycle of endless striving. And it roots you in now. Seneca urged his students to appreciate life deeply, before it slipped away. He wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." That means noticing. Noticing the warmth of your coffee, the strength in your legs, the sound of a friend's voice, the roof over your head, the lessons carved into your scars. This isn't about settling. It's about centering. Gratitude doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you stop growing from a place of lack. Because the man who sees clearly what he has builds from abundance, not desperation. Mark began ending his days with a simple ritual. 3 things he was grateful for. Not grand things, real things. His brother's laugh. A quiet sunset. The chance to try again tomorrow. And slowly he stopped chasing happiness. Because he realized he was already living parts of it. He just hadn't seen it. The Stoic doesn't wait for life to be perfect before being grateful. He chooses gratitude because it sharpens his vision. It anchors him. It arms him. It humbles him. So focus on the good stuff you've got. Because you have more than you think. And if you truly see it, you'll need less than you thought. The inner life is the real life. At the end of this journey, we return to the beginning. Not the beginning of the video, but the beginning of something more important. Your life as it was always meant to be. A life not dictated by trends or noise. Not defined by what you have or what you lack. But shaped, every day, by timeless principles. By what you choose to focus on. By what you choose to become. The Stoics didn't offer shallow advice. They offered a way of being. Not just a way to survive the world, but to transcend it. Mark's journey was not about abandoning success. It was about redefining it. Success, as the Stoics saw it, was not about applause, luxury, or dominance. It was about harmony, inner peace, living in agreement with nature and in alignment with your highest self. Through laughter, nature, early mornings, and well-planned days. Through perseverance, kindness, courageous openness, digital discipline. Through rest, connection, service, gratitude, and forgiveness. Mark didn't just learn how to be happy. He remembered how to be human. These 13 principles are not a checklist. They are a compass, a guide to help you return, again and again, to the source of real strength, your mind. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics intuited centuries ago. That happiness is not a destination. It's a byproduct, a virtue, of meaning, of intentional living. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the Holocaust and father of logotherapy, echoed this truth when he wrote, "Happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue. It is the unintended side effect of one's dedication to a cause greater than oneself." So don't chase happiness. Live with courage, with discipline, with reflection, with action. Let your thoughts be clean. Let your days be deliberate. Let your presence be strong. Because as Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. You don't need to apply everything at once. Start small. Pick one principle. Live it today. Reflect on it tonight. Repeat tomorrow. Grow. Adapt. Deepen. The path is not always easy, but it is clear. And it begins, as it always has, with the next choice you make. Make it count. Make it conscious. Make it stoic.